Hello, this is Mike from the MFL team, and this time I'm going to take you through paper 4, the writing paper, and try to explain to you how we've made this compassionate, accessible and relatable for our students. So first of all, how do students feel about the writing exams? We found many feedback saying the questions in target language are horrible. That's verbatim, as you can imagine. Black and white images are harder to see clearly and therefore more difficult to write about. They're worried they're going to be forced to write about something unfamiliar, and as a result of that, they had difficulty using their imagination, especially if there's a question about a scenario they've never experienced before. Suddenly they've got to do a productive piece of work. Not only have they got to do it in a target language and test their language skills, they've also got to try imagining things, which is a big ask for many students. What they do like is having clear bullet points, which set them on the right path, and a decent number of bullet points at that. And when the bullet points are clear about what tenses are required, students found that very helpful to support them in making the most out of the productive task of writing. Now here's a quick overview of the writing. So you've got the foundation tier and the higher tier here. You'll see in the foundation tier there are 4 questions. The first one, the picture task, is only in the foundation. It's a colour picture, and there will be 4 short sentences for the students to write. Both the foundation and the higher tier have 2 open response questions, one formal, one informal. And the great thing here is both tiers have a choice at both of those open response questions. Final part is the translation, and that's from English into target language, and it'll be 35 to 40 words in the foundation and 50 words to 55 words in the higher tier. You can see that arrow drawn on the screen here, and that's for the crossover question, which is the informal context question, and that's in the foundation tier question 3 and the higher tier question 1. There are a number of features which have been designed to help support your students feeling like they can succeed and not feel caught out. So first of all the tasks are to be designed within students' own experiences. We don't want to put them in any scenarios where their lack of cultural capital hinders them from being able to write or produce something which reflects their knowledge and understanding of the subject and their ability to manipulate the language. The colour image in foundation, as you can see, it should be within, again, students' own experiences, and it has 4 short sentences to write about, and the colour image is so students can be more engaged with the subject matter. There is, as I mentioned a moment ago, a choice of writing tasks to cover the different subjects, meaning students can use vocabulary that they're most confident with, and they can choose one of the 2. If one they're not comfortable with, they can go to the other subject. There are clear English questions and scaffolding bullet points. Students have said if they don't have enough bullet points, their minds can go blank. So it's very useful and helpful for them to have necessary and the right number and the clear guidance in the bullet points to help with the longer writing questions. And within those bullet points, it is very clear the expectation of the tenses to cover. And the marking of the translation is holistically marked over 5 sentences, which are linked to the thematic context. And there is, and this is what students have fed back that they like, is the ramping and progression in demand throughout the papers. They know what they're going to be expecting throughout. So let's have a look at what we mean by formal and informal contexts. In question 1, which is the crossover question with foundation tier, the context would be friends for both 1A and B, but the subject matter does change. In this instance, it's writing about shopping, where the B questions is writing about transport, but they're both to your friend. Similarly, in the formal context for question 2A and B, it's an online magazine. Again, it's just the content that changes. So rather than the schools that you see here, which is the B question, the 2A is healthy eating. Now, there are a few other points to note on this. So there is no unnecessary page clutter, and that's to make the student feel at ease with this paper and not be distracted by anything else. There's a clear expectation of tenses and a consistent layout and wording in the questions. Furthermore, there's no requirement for students to use the formal register in responses, and that even goes for the question 2 in the formal context. And there's no requirement for students to follow the order of the bullet points. If they write the bullet points out of order, that will be absolutely fine, as long as they do cover all the bullets that are there. You will also note that the number of bullet points been at 4, as those quite a few, and that's to help students scaffold their answers for longer response questions. The feedback we've had from students and teachers alike is that the more bullet points they have, the easier it is for them to be able to fulfill, say, a 150 word response. Now let's have a look at the mark scheme. It's evolved hugely over the course of the submission, and we've aimed to make this as a concise and easy to apply mark scheme with simplified language and practical layout as it could possibly be. There's exemplification of all question types based on real student responses to support marking, and there's additional guidance on distinction between AO2 and AO3 marking to ensure students are rewarded for communication success even if they make a few errors in accuracy. There's helpful guidance as well, such as the infographic just shown on screen now, to indicate the progression between terms like sometimes and mostly, and examples of the type of errors they could be making. And finally, there's a graduated criteria to allow the full range of differentiation between candidates while remaining compassionate. And that brings us to the end of this writing module. I hope you found it useful, and I wish you all the best when you start teaching the qualification. Thank you for listening.